I've reviewed every Nightmare, and I've reviewed every Friday. So now it is time to bring them together. Freddy vs. Jason. Place your bets. Welcome to the Dave Cave. I, as always, am Dave. And today we're going to be talking the movie that after 10 years finally brings the icons together for a titanic grudge match, and that is Freddy vs. Jason. Freddy vs. Jason was directed by Ronnie Yu, stars Monica Keena and Jason Ritter as the final boy-girl couple. And then for Jason Voorhees, we have Ken Kersinger coming in. It's actually not his first time in a Friday the 13th. And then finally, for one last ride, for the role of Freddy Krueger, we have Robert Englund. Now, I'm going to try to keep it contained, but there's a lot that I like about Freddy vs. Jason. So let's just dive in and get right to the good. The first thing I want to talk about that I like about this movie, it's really kind of a recurring theme when it comes to these series of movies, but I really like the intro in this movie. Not so much the whole intro with Jason, but really all the backstory and the idea of what we get of what's going to go on because of Freddy. You have Robert Englund does the whole thing of explaining why he can't really do what he used to do anymore, that he's weak, he needs somebody to make them afraid. He finds Jason, and then boom, movie goes off from there. I really like that one because it does pick up a little bit from the end of Jason Goes to Hell. They really could have leaned on that a little bit more and actually had that scene maybe be part of the opening of this. But I like that they have this idea that Freddy, that they beat him. Straight up beat him. They have a way that they beat him. But we get all that explanation, we get clips from the former movies, and it gives you this idea really of what is going to bring them together. It makes so much sense when they put it in the way they put it in this movie. And I just love the hell out of it. And the next thing I want to talk about actually expands on that a little bit more, in that I like that this town, Springwood, had an idea of how to beat Freddy, how they quarantined him, how they basically made everybody who was dreaming about him go to Weston Hills, use that as kind of more of a quarantine instead of what we knew it in Dream Warriors, where it was more kind of free-flowing and, you know, the kids were being monitored, but nothing like what it is in this movie. I like the little switch of that this is where anybody who could bring back Freddy, you stick him there and you pump him full of Hypnocil, which it's fucked up at the end of the day, but it's effective. I mean, it worked really well. And another thing that's so cool about that is the idea that it's a flip on the general idea that adults don't believe that. They don't believe in Freddy. They don't believe that, you know, what's going on and that there's some kind of dream demon that's killing all these kids. No. These adults, these people of authority, they believe so intensely that you even mention his name. They say it actually a couple times in the movie. You know, I mentioned, you know, the name to my dad and he almost shit himself. Like, they so intensely believe that everybody just goes ape shit when something happens at 1428 Elm. Like, it's on. Like, they need to just, boom, quarantine, lockdown, the whole town. No one goes in, no one goes out. I like that idea. I like the switch on that because so many times it's the kids that can't have the adults believe them. But then in this one, you have the adults where the kids don't believe, like, you know, maybe you should just listen to us because we know what we're doing. You need to go to sleep. You need to take these drugs. We need to keep Freddy contained, which they fail epically at. But you have all these characters that are trying so hard and believe so intensely in Freddy that they are fighting him by keeping him out of mention, even a mutter of him, and people get pissed off. I like that edginess to the whole town. The next thing that I want to talk about that I like in this movie is the way it handles the humor. Because you have this movie, it's a completely ridiculous concept. This movie is Freddy versus Jason. If you've watched my Jason Goes to Hell review, you know that really the reason that movie works for me is it plays like fan fiction. This movie really, straight up, is a sequel to Jason Goes to Hell. Right? That makes perfect sense. It's been 10 years, but that's the last one. You have Freddy's hand, grab the mask, pull it under hell. They're in hell. Freddy says he searched the bowels of hell, found Jason, boom, and here we are. This movie takes this ridiculous concept and it injects humor into it. There's humor and laughs all over this movie. But what this movie does well, for me at least, is that when there's funny moments, like Jason in the cornfield, you have the two dudes, they're getting high, drinking Everclear, and it's a silly moment. There's a couple of laughs in that moment when the dude takes Everclear and throws it on Jason. You're like, okay, what's that going to do? But then he sets him on fire. There's always a level of holy shit to that because they don't like goof it up. It's like just these guys, they're high and they're drunk. And they, tells Jason to go find a pig to fuck. But he's a drunk asshole. So, yeah, that's how he's going to randomly respond to some guy. And then it turns into a just complete massacre. You have also Freddy, and I've said this before, with dark humor. And in this, he's got this, it's like a cocky humor to it, but it's not silly, goofy, and power glove kind of funny. It's dark stuff. Like, he makes jokes that are messed up. He talks about taking Lori's virginity with his glove and that the first time's a little messy. Like, holy shit, man. Like, that is dark. That is dark. But it's like, it's funny. He's making jokes, but it's serious shit. I like that. It happens through this whole movie. It keeps a playful tone, but it also keeps it serious. Like, when this movie needs to be serious, it does a fairly good job of it. It takes itself seriously, but it has fun. And for me, that's why this movie works so well. And the last thing I want to talk about in the good column is that I like the dream sequences in this movie. We'll talk a little bit more about it later, but I like especially the early ones. You get the Lori dream in the police station, you get the Blake one before his kill by Jason, and really the Keo one in the nurse infirmary. I like them because for me they were handled very well. The way they're executed, they're not ridiculous, but they also have a fantastic kind of element to them. But also, it's when Freddy's trying to spread his fear. He's trying to get them scared. He's trying to drum up his own power, but we actually even see that he can't do anything. In Lori's, he just calls her a bitch and wakes her up. And Blake's, he tries to kill him, but he's like, I'm not strong enough. I'm gonna let Jason play. And then for the Keo one, it's just one creepy ass visuals in that. They're just looking in the whole magazine, and then it starts getting into plastic surgery kind of stuff, and that scene always kind of gives me the but I like them. I like this idea of Freddy trying to spread this fear, doing what he can while Jason's doing what he does to get as strong as he can before he can actually start doing what he needs to do. And that finally culminates in the scene where Freddy's going for his first kill and Jason takes it from him. But I like all the build up to that. All the dream sequences that we get with Freddy up into that point, they're handled pretty well. They're creepy as shit, but they're simple. I dig that. Now, for everybody that's been shaking their head this whole review, wondering how I could like this movie and how I could defend it, now it is time for you to start agreeing with me as we get into the bad. The first thing that I don't like about this movie and never really have is the basement scene. When they all get together after the cornfield and they basically straight up figure out Freddy's plan. Oh yeah, he must have done this and must have done that, and that's why he has Jason and he brought him back. And you have the cop come in that is from out of town and he's like, oh yeah, no, this is all the stuff about Jason Voorhees. And then you have Linderman make an offhand comment. He's like, no, I've seen what he's capable of. This is the real Jason. How the fuck do you know? How the fuck do you know that this is the real Jason? You didn't know who the fuck this guy was until about 5 minutes ago. Well, okay, 10 minutes ago when you were at the cornfield. This big asshole with a hockey mask on. You didn't know who that was? What further bugs me about that scene is the inclusion of the cop. I understand that they wanted to bring in, an adult helping these kids on their journey. But you didn't need that. Anything that they wanted to find out about Jason, they could have looked on the internet, just like they did with the Hypnosil. You could completely take that character out. There's no purpose beyond what he does earlier in the movie for him to be an addition to that team. Nothing happens. He gets electrocuted and thrown into a console. He dies quick as shit after this scene. For me, it feels like a scene where they didn't really know how to push the movie forward, how to get them to have this information. So they just, oh yeah, everything makes sense. Yeah, just throw it all in here, and then, we can get going. The next thing I want to talk about that I don't like in this movie, I have the exact same gripe in Jason Takes Manhattan. The fact that Jason's weakness is water. Even in this movie, more so at the end of it, but even in this movie, Jason's been in the water. In his little fantasy dreams, water's a big part of that, and he's walking through the water. You'd think that would be a nightmare for him. But no, he's in this dream world where he's walking through water, and many times throughout the whole Friday the 13th series, we see Jason in the water, sometimes voluntarily walking into the water for a kill or two. It doesn't make sense. I understand that they needed some kind of way to get Freddy inside Jason's head and mess with all of that and really get a little bit more backstory, which even that, I don't like the backstory that they tried to give Jason, that these kids are responsible for killing Jason instead of Jason just not being a strong swimmer. But I don't like that they tried to play and give him a weakness that he doesn't have. They do it in Jason Takes Manhattan, and they do it in this one. Neither time does it work for me at all. And that's it for my bad column. I actually don't have much that I don't like about this movie. I have a fair good time with it. So let's get into one of my favorite parts of the movie with the blood, the guts, the backbends, the ugly. I always find it interesting in this movie that really all Freddy does in terms of carnage is everything he does to Jason, and he has one kill. Mark. Which actually Mark is one of my favorite characters in the whole movie, but mostly that's it's not a weak kill. The Mark Nightmare, I like the Mark Nightmare. The way it builds up, him having to fight Freddy, seeing his brother in the bathtub with him having killed himself. It's a cool little nightmare that isn't too crazy, but it's effective because it's damn, he's talking to his brother that killed himself, but it ends so goofy with the whole Freddy's back. It's Freddy's back on Mark's back. It's a ridiculous kill. I like when he's up on the window and you get the slash across the face. I dig that. But for being Freddy's one kill, I mean, they knew that you were back, Freddy. Like, people were afraid of you. You didn't need to keep drumming that up. Everything that was happening with Jason was working right into your plan. You didn't need to do that. As for everybody else who gets killed by Jason, those are all gnarly. They're all awesome displays of this next level kind of zombie, super strong Jason, kind of what we get in Jason X, where he can do basically whatever the hell he wants. They don't even really show what happens to Blake, but they cut Blake's ass up. Trey's kill, the first kill of the movie, happens super early, is awesome. Jason stabs the shit out of him, bends him backwards. There are plenty of great examples of just carnage and brutality in this movie. I love the kills. It does nothing but add to the movie. Like I said, the Freddy one on Mark is a little weak. But my award for favorite kill of the movie goes to Freeburg. Freeburg's death scene basically starts with really this caterpillar Freddy getting him even higher than he was and taking over Freeburg's body. You then have this moment where really Freddy thinks of the best way to best Jason. Tranquilize him. I mean, he sacrifices Freeburg in the process, but it's a very cool scene because he has this plan and he uses Freeburg to do it, and what ultimately that does is you get the tranquilizers into Jason's neck and a very awesome, just one swipe, boom, right through Freeburg kill, where he spins off. They do use the whole blood spray a hell of a lot in this movie, but I always thought that everything that goes into that kill was very integral to the whole story, but also just this sheer, just boom, just one across, gone, done. Always love the shit out of that kill. And now it is time for my final thoughts on the grudge match for the ages, that is Freddy vs. Jason. When you go into this movie and you have this mostly silly concept of Freddy and Jason having to fight each other, this movie handles that pretty well. It's a fun movie, and really, when you get down to bare bones, everything that this iconic grudge match should have been, this movie was. You get Freddy fighting Jason on Freddy's terms. You get Jason fighting Freddy on Jason's terms. They cut the shit out of each other. They fight tooth and nail. Really kind of Freddy wins ultimately. But when you get to the end of it, there's no clear winner because you think, oh, Jason's got Freddy's head, and then Freddy's head gives the wink. I dig all that and everything in between. I think that this was exactly what a Freddy vs. Jason movie should have been. Now, one thing that I always wish that they had done with this movie, I think actually really would have helped it upon release, is if they did kind of what Clue did and have some theaters see Freddy win. And I'm not saying like the win that this movie had, definitive win. Like Freddy kills Jason. Freddy kills everybody. The kids die. Freddy wins. Ha ha ha. End credits. And then you also have Jason win. Jason kills Freddy, cuts his head off, kills everyone else. Roll credits. And then we also get the ending that we have. I think it would have created a great fan moment in that people be like, oh yeah, this movie was awesome. Jason won. I was a little bit pissed about that. And then you have another friend be like, dude, no, Freddy won. What the fuck are you talking about? And then another friend says, oh, no, Freddy didn't win. Jason didn't win. The kids win. Ha ha. And then make a great little conversation piece that also would have made for a great special features when it comes to the DVD or Blu-ray now. I think it would have been great. And I'm so bummed that we didn't get that. Oh, little side note. I always thought this was awesome, and I'm so glad I caught this years ago. Evangeline Lilly, the Wasp, is in this movie. In Mark's scene where he's at school and he talks about the whole backstory of, okay, yeah, 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. Yeah, that's when he comes for you in his dreams. Coffee, make friends with it. She's in the background. She's behind Mark. It's awesome. It's a little moment, but it always makes me smile when I see it. Now, I've seen Freddy vs. Jason. I couldn't even begin to tell you how many times. It's a movie that I would pop in, have on in the background, because they have moments that you could just look and be like, oh, okay, and then keep going. I like this movie because of that, but also I like this movie for sitting down and watching it. For me, it's very entertaining. Across the board, Freddy, Jason, the kids here and there, the story, the way that plays out, and especially when they get to finally fighting, I like all of that. I was worried that in watching all the Friday the 13th movies, because I hadn't seen any of those before, that was going to change how I feel about this movie. It does a little bit in that it makes me like this movie a little bit more than I did before. It gives me a little bit more history of Jason, a little bit more context. And really, yeah, I like this movie a lot. And as I get older, I'm starting to love it. So, tiny little spoiler for my 31 out of 31, but this movie is going to rank decently high. So now I have officially reviewed every Friday the 13th, every A Nightmare on Elm Street, and that leaves just one more in this 31 to get to 31, and that is Halloween. My review for the 1978 original Halloween will be out on Tuesday, so be on the lookout for that. And while you're waiting for that, if this is the first one you're watching, go watch my Friday the 13th reviews, go watch my Nightmare reviews, and get ready because, yeah, Halloween, that's my shit right there. I am again going to have links to the original Friday the 13th review and the original Nightmare on Elm Street review in the description below. And while you're down there, I have links to my Instagram and Twitter. They're both at @TheDaveCave_. I post over there when I'm not posting here, and that is going to do it for me, is going to do it for Freddy, and that is going to do it for Jason. Thank you so much, as always, for stopping by the Dave Cave. I will see you on Tuesday to start the journey through Halloween. But until then, take care.